Hi everyone, my name is Abhiraj Garikapati. Welcome to my YouTube channel Amazing Abhi. Today, we're going to talk about all of Sung Jin-woo's insane fights and solo leveling. We're also going to keep track of his wins and losses along the way, so let's get right into his very first battle, which was against a goblin in the D-ranked dungeon. This is where Jin-woo really lived up to his title as the weakest hunter of mankind, because goblins are so weak that even E-rank hunters can handle them. But not Jin-woo. He got stabbed and lost the battle, and if BM6 hadn't killed the goblin and Ju-hee hadn't healed him, Jin-woo literally would have died. So Jin-woo's first fight is a humiliating loss. Jin-woo's next fight was against the statue of God in the infamous double dungeon. When Jin-woo and his raid party stumbled into that nightmare, they came face to face against this huge terrifying living statue that loved playing twisted, sadistic games with them. Even though Jin-woo's quick thinking managed to save a few of his teammates from death, Jin-woo obviously gets his second loss of the video. As if it wasn't for the system swooping in at the last second to save him, he would have been a goner. Next up, Jin-woo versus the centipedes. After Jin-woo woke up in the hospital with the system, he messed up his daily quest and got thrown into the penalty zone, a giant desert nightmare filled with poison-fang giant sand centipedes. The goal? Survive for 4 hours. But this wasn't much of a fight. Jin-woo spent the whole time just running for his life, so technically he won by surviving. But since he didn't actually fight back, we're adding a new category to the scoreboard: undecided. Because there really wasn't a winner in this battle. Moving on, Jin-woo faced off against the Steel Fang lichens in the instant dungeon. At first, he struggled, but then he pulled out a sword from his inventory and sliced the lichens in half. So Jin-woo finally gets his first W. Continuing in the instant dungeon, Jin-woo made it to the boss fight against the Blue Venom Fang Kisaka. As a C-rank boss, Kisaka easily overpowered Jin-woo and shattered his sword with a single strike. But thanks to all the level ups he'd been grinding and a healthy dose of pure determination, he used his boosted strength stats and literally strangled the snake to death. So yet, Jin-woo gets his second victory. Right after defeating Kisaka, Jin-woo fought the stone golem boss. Leaving the instant dungeon, he spotted a nearby D-rank gate, where the stone golem boss was giving the hunters some serious trouble. But Jin-woo saw this as the perfect chance to test his new strength. So, he took his broken sword and threw it at the golem, blasting a hole through the side of its face, and disorientating the golem just enough for the other hunters to finish the job. Even though Jin-woo didn't land the final blow, I still think we've gotta give Jin-woo the W here. So, that's just what we'll do. Next up, we've got Jin-woo's fight against the spider boss Beryura. In the Dungeon and Lizards arc, Wanged Donsak and his squad betrayed Jin-woo and Jin-ho, trapping them in the dungeon with this massive spider boss. As a C-rank boss, it's a powerful magic beast that could even spit corrosive acid. So at first, Jin-woo struggled, but once he pulled out his new weapon, Kisaka's Venom Fang, he got in some deadly stabs, in a handy paralysis debuff from the venom to take the spider down. Alright, moving on. Jin-woo's next opponents were Wang Donsak and his squad of lizards. After defeating Beryura, Donsak and his crew rolled back into the dungeon, thinking Jin-woo and Jin-ho were goners. But when they saw the two still alive, they decided to finish the job themselves. So for a moment, they actually thought they'd taken Jin-woo out. But yeah, huge mistake. Jin-woo got back up and wiped out the entire squad instantly. However, he made sure to save Donsak for last and smashed him into the ground before finishing him off. Now, Jin-woo made his way to the demon castle where he faced off against the gatekeeper Cerberus. This massive three-headed black dog was strong, fast, and insanely durable. To make things worse, Cerberus was completely immune to the effects of Kisaka's Venom Fang and easily overpowered Jin-woo. Still, Jin-woo wasn't about to back down. Even with Cerberus rage doubling the beast's power for 3 minutes, he kept fighting and eventually was able to pull off his signature move, a stab to the eye, taking Cerberus down. Jin-woo's next fight was against the B-rank hunter, Kang Taeshik. During the Dungeon and Prisoners arc, Taeshik had just killed the prisoners and Kim Sangshik, and when he was just about to finish off Kai-yel, Jin-woo stepped in, catching everyone off guard. Realizing Jin-woo was strong, Taeshik shifted his focus and thought he could take Jinwoo out quickly. But nope, Jinwoo kept countering him, and as the fight dragged on, Taeshik unleashed his full power and charged at Jinwoo with his stealth skill activated. But Jinwoo hit him with his bloodlust skill, paralyzing Taeshik just long enough to land a fatal stab to the chest. So, another W for him Woo. Next up, Jinwoo took on a pack of werewolves during his C-ranked dungeon raids with Jinho. While the werewolves looked pretty intimidating with their sharp fangs and claws, Jinwoo just wiped the floor with them in no time. Before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Pi grow naturally, adding another victory to his score without breaking a sweat. Now, Jinwoo faced off against knights, mages, and assassins during the job change request dungeon. Each had their own unique abilities, knights with their tough defenses, mages with powerful magic, and assassins using stealth to strike. But Jinwoo made quick work of them all. Moving on, we've got Jinwoo versus the blood-red commander, Egris. After finally arriving at the boss room, Egris wasted no time and pushed Jinwoo to his absolute limits, tossing him around like it was nothing as Egris was just way stronger. Just when it looked like Egris was going to finish him off, Jinwoo managed to stop Egris' sword, landing a strike to his eye and defeating him. So Jinwoo gets another huge victory, though he himself felt it was a bit of a fluke since he was clearly outmatched. Still in the job change request dungeon arc, Jinwoo finds himself back in the penalty zone where he faces the poison-fanged giant sand centipedes again. But this time, they are no longer the threat they once were, so Jinwoo easily defeats dozens of them without breaking a sweat, leveling up and restoring himself to full health. Back in the throne room, Jinwoo faces off against a new wave of knights, mages, and assassins. Quickly realizing the mages were controlling the dead knights and assassins, he targets and takes down one of the mages with his new skill, Dagger Toss. The remaining mages then summon a massive night boss. However, Jinwoo quickly finished off the mages and completely destroyed the boss, adding another victory to his score. Jinwoo's next opponents were the Ice Bears during the Red Gate incident. After splitting up from Kim Chul's group, they encountered some ice bears in the forest. But yeah, nothing more to say than that. Jinwoo took them out like it was nothing. As Jinwoo moved deeper into the dungeon, he faced off against the Alpha Ice Bear. However, this time, it's Egris, Jinwoo's shadow, who takes down the bear with his insane sword skills. So does Jinwoo get the win here? Well, I'll leave it up to you guys if you want to add it to the score, but after this fight, I'm going to leave the shadows 1 versus 1s out of Jinwoo's battles. Okay, let's continue, and next up, the boss of the Red Gate dungeon, the Ice Elf Barduka. Barduka was just insanely OP, and Jinwoo realized that even with Egris by his side, they wouldn't be able to handle him. So he killed Kim and extracted his shadow, naming it Iron. And now, in a 3 versus 1, Jinwoo managed to outsmart Barduka with Iron ending the fight by smashing the Ice Elf into the ground with his giant battle axe. Although Iron delivered the final blow since he's Jinwoo's shadow, and Jinwoo was the one who outsmarted Barduka, I'll give the win to our boy. Returning to the demon castle, Jinwoo faced off against 10,000 demons, with the help of his shadows, like Tank, who was charging through the demons like a bulldozer. Jinwoo and his shadows made quick work of them. Even though it was literally 10,000 demons, we'll count it as just 1 W to the score. Next up, Vulcan, the second boss of the demon castle, the ruler of the lower floors. Although Vulcan was huge, he was insanely fast, and in his rage mode, he became even faster and stronger. Despite being surprised by Vulcan's power, Jinwoo still managed to take him down pretty quickly with a powerful slash to secure the win. Now we've got Midas, the boss of the 75th floor of the demon castle. Midas had his own army of shadow soldiers and summoned thousands of undead to try and overwhelm Jinwoo in his army. But Jinwoo, with his insane strength and quick thinking, easily took Midas down in a one-on-one. Next up, Jinwoo's fight against the High Orcs during the Hunters Guild arc. When Jinwoo accompanied the Hunters Guild's Strike Squad B in a dungeon, they ran into a group of High Orcs who brutally attacked the squad. As Jinwoo didn't want to reveal his true strength just yet, he used stealth and slashed some of the orcs' weak points so the strike team could finish them off. However, as he did, moving on, Jinwoo faces the dungeon boss Kargalgan. After getting the strike team to meet with him, Kargolgan started tormenting Ki-hun. But Jinwoo had enough of it. He stepped in, saved Ki-hun, and started attacking Kargolgan's army of orcs with his own shadow army. Kargolgan was a powerful shaman orc, so he put up a fight, but he was no match for Jinwoo's overwhelming strength, who ultimately defeated him, extracted his shadow, and named him Tusk. So yeah, another win for Jinwoo. Returning to the demon castle once again and reaching the 80th floor, Jinwoo faced the demon knights and Esselradiru. Essel and her clan were sent to take Jinwoo out, but Jinwoo easily wiped out all her knights and was ready to finish off her too. Realizing she didn't stand a chance, she quickly surrendered and begged for her life. So before we move ahead, please take a second to share on this video. Sharing helps this video reach friends who may also enjoy anime, gaming, travel, cricket, chess, career basics, or personal stories. Your support helps Amazing Abhai grow naturally. Woo spared her. Again, another easy victory for Jinwoo. Finally, reaching the 100th floor of the demon castle, Jinwoo faced off against Baron, the king of demons and monarch of white flames. Now, Baron wasted no time and launched a brutal attack, quickly gaining the upper hand with his overwhelming strength as a true monarch. However, during the fight, Essel managed to distract Baron, which made Jinwoo see an opening and landed a devastating punch to his jaw to finish him off for good. Jinwoo's next opponent was actually against another human, Godu Ugi, Japan's top S-rank hunter. During a sparring match between the Korean and Japanese S-rank, Jinwoo stepped in when Shaw got into trouble, and seeing Jinwoo's strength, Godu challenged him to a 1vs1. But let's just say, things didn't go as Godu thought. Jinwoo literally just played with him. However, the fight had to be stopped when Yunho and Cha got worried that Godu might not survive if Jinwoo kept going. So this fight ends up an undecided, as we never saw a winner. Now, Jinwoo took on the Ant King. The hunters were really struggling against the Ant King on Jeju Island. No one could match his strength, except for Jinwoo, of course. When he stepped up, the Ant King got exactly what he wanted, a worthy opponent. They got into an intense fight, but Jinwoo quickly outclassed the Ant King, countering every punch with his superior strength. So, realizing he couldn't win, the Ant King tried to flee, but Jinwoo stopped him and killed him once and for all, adding him to his shadow army as Baru. Alright, next up, we've got the Tree Folk Centaur. After a B-ranked gate spawned in the middle of a highway in Seoul, Jinwoo wanted to quickly clear it. However, once he entered, it turned out to be a red gate. The boss of this gate, the Tree Folk Centaur, was a cocky monster who bragged about his army. But well, when he saw Jinwoo's shadow army, his cockiness turned into shock. He then suffered a brutal one-sided defeat at Jinwoo's hands, adding yet another victory to Jinwoo's score. Now, one of Jinwoo's scariest fights, which was against Groktar and the Green Orcs. Why? Because he almost lost Jinna. Because during the Ajin Guild arc, a dungeon break happened at her school and orcs started popping out of the gate and attacked the students. Then, when Groktar, the boss of the Green Orcs, saw Jinna and the shadows protecting her, he was literally seconds from taking her out. But Jinwoo came crashing in to save her. And after almost losing Jinna, let's just say, Jinwoo wasn't very happy. So, he literally slaughtered Groktar's entire tribe, leaving Groktar the last one alive. But yeah, he took him out as well. Now, Jinwoo versus the Boss Naga. This was the Ajin Guild's first raid as an official guild, so Woo Jinshuil had to accompany Jinwoo during the raid to make sure everything went right. This was what he looks like before the raid, and this is what he looks like during the raid. As watching Jinwoo's shadows massacre the monsters in the raid made him literally terrified of Jinwoo's powers. But yet, Jinwoo one-shot the Boss Naga and added it to his shadow army, naming it Jima. So let's just continue. And now, Jinwoo faces the guard statues and the statue of God as he returns to the double dungeon. After Jinwoo reached level 100, Kandairu invited Jinwoo back to test his strength. Once Jinwoo arrived, Kandairu had him face off against his puppets, including the massive statue of God. But this time the statues had no chance against our MC, who got revenge against the statues who killed his friends. Still in the double dungeon, Jinwoo's next fight was against Kandairu, aka the Architect. As the one who controlled the system, Kandairu revealed himself as Jinwoo's final test, forcing him into an urgent quest where they had to fight and failure meant instant death. But Jinwoo of course passed his test. However, this wasn't the real fight, because Kandairu then put Jinwoo in a trance as he waited for Ashbourne to take over Jinwoo's body. But then, Jinchul, Sha, and Jianin entered the dungeon, and an all-out war broke out between the hunters and Kandairu's statues. Things were looking completely hopeless until Jinwoo snapped out of his trance and went straight for Kandairu, punching through his face and smashing him into the ground, while Kandairu then screamed in rage after being betrayed by Ashbourne before Jinwoo sliced him apart. Jinwoo's next opponents were the Giants and the Super Giant. When an S-rank gate break happened in Tokyo, Japan was completely outmatched and couldn't handle the break on their own. So, days later, Jinwoo arrived and wiped out 28 of the 29 remaining Giants. But don't think these Giants were weak. They were strong enough to easily kill an S-rank hunter and even overpower Jima and Tusk. Although he took down 28 Giants, we're still only going to add 1 W to his score. Moving on, we've got the King of Giants and Monarch of the Beginning, Leja. With no more Giants guarding the gate, Jinwoo stepped inside and found Leja chained up in the boss room. Leja promised he'd fight with Jinwoo in the upcoming war, but Jinwoo wasn't buying it. So, Leja showed his true colors and attacked Jinwoo, but he effortlessly dodged and took his head clean off. Before we move ahead, please take a second to like on this video. A like tells me that you enjoyed this topic. Your support helps Amazing Apai grow naturally. Off. Closing the gate and putting an end to the crisis. Another easy W. Next up, Huang Dansu. After he kidnaps Jinwoo, Jinwoo wasted no time tracking him down, and now, face to face with Dansu, Jinwoo dodged his attacks with ease and pummeled him into the ground. Even though Dansu tried to fight back, it was pointless. Jinwoo completely overwhelmed him and eventually finished him off. And to top it all off, he even extracted his shadow and named it Greed. Now that's just disrespectful. Now, Jinwoo had to fight Thomas and Ray, the world's strongest hunter and a national level hunter, because during Jinwoo's fight with Dansu, Thomas stepped in and told Jinwoo to let his guild member Dansu go. But Jinwoo, of course, refused. So Thomas angrily attacked him and the two of them got into a brutal fight. When Jinwoo then made him bleed, Thomas decided to stop holding back and went all out. Unfortunately, even at full power, he was no match for Jinwoo, who completely dominated him, beating him with nothing but his bare hands. Now, Jinwoo's toughest fight ever as he faced the Frost, Beast, and Plague Monarchs. During the Monarch War arc, these 3 monarchs teamed up to take Jinwoo out before he could fully awaken as the Shadow Monarch. And this fight was intense, with Karisha being the first one to fall. But in the end, Silid pushed Jinwoo to his absolute limit with his spiritual body manifestation, keeping him distracted just long enough for Rakan to land a devastating sneak attack, stabbing Jinwoo right through the chest. So, after a crazy win streak, Jinwoo finally takes another L. So, is this the end? Nope. Just when it looks like Jinwoo was actually done for, his black heart suddenly started beating, bringing him back to life. But this wasn't just any revival. Ashbourne had now passed on his true powers to Jinwoo, making him the real Shadow Monarch. And Jinwoo's first fight with his newly awakened powers was against Rakan. And let's just say, it did not go well for the Beast Monarch. The moment Rakan saw Jinwoo fully awakened, he straight up ran for his life. But Jinwoo wasn't about to let him off that easy. Now, cornered with nowhere left to run, Rakan dropped his pride and begged for mercy. And Jinwoo actually accepted, only it was on one condition. Rakan had to survive 5 attacks, and at that moment Rakan realized Jinwoo was just toying with him. So furious he went full beast mode, saying that Jinwoo wouldn't leave the fight unscathed. But yeah, empty words. Jinwoo absolutely wrecked him in just 4 hits, ending the Beast Monarch. Next up, Silid. Even though he had 0 chance of winning, Silid still refused to back down. Instead, he went all in, throwing everything he had at Jinwoo with his ice magic. But yeah, it didn't matter. Jinwoo barely even tried. Just one effortless slash across the chest, and it was all over. Silid, completely in shock, could only scream in rage before dropping dead. Another monarch down. And another easy win for Jinwoo. Now, we've got Jinwoo versus the strongest monarch, the monarch of destruction, Antares. Right after Jinwoo wiped out the other monarchs, Antares showed up, bringing his entire 10 million strong army with him. Yeah, he wasn't playing around. But instead of getting surrounded, Jinwoo dragged Antares to a remote island for a one-on-one fight. And this fight was intense. No matter what Jinwoo threw at him, nothing worked. Even in his astralization form, he only managed to land one solid hit. Antares was just built different. But then, the rulers finally made their move, descending into the human world and completely cornered Antares. Desperate, he tried to take Jinwoo out one last time, but the rulers stabbed him with their divine spears. So, this one's gotta go in undecided, because let's be real, without the rulers, Jinwoo would have lost. Alright, we've now reached the epilogue, and although I've spoiled pretty much everything in the series, this is the most intense spoilers yet. So yeah, big spoiler alert and your last chance to turn back. Ready? Let's get into it. In the epilogue, Jinwoo's first fight that we see is against Yagyeomint, the monarch of transfiguration. After using the cup of reincarnation to rewind time, Jinwoo went on a relentless hunt for the monarchs, taking them out one by one. So 2 years later, having already eliminated every other monarch except for Yagyeomint and Antares, Jinwoo faces Yagyeomint in a one-on-one showdown. But unsurprisingly, Jinwoo effortlessly defeats Yagyeomint. Now, the rematch between Antares and Jinwoo. Being the strongest, Jinwoo left Antares for last. As he knew Jinwoo would eventually come for him, he waited patiently for the Shadow Monarch to arrive. When Jinwoo finally appeared inside his grand palace, Antares was thrilled for their rematch, instantly activating his spiritual body manifestation. However, Jinwoo was now much stronger, so despite Antares' best efforts, Jinwoo defeated the last monarch. Finally, the last fight Jinwoo had in solo leveling was against the Titans. The Titans are a race of stone giants, and several years after Jinwoo massacred the monarchs, they arrived in the human world with the intention of conquering it for themselves. Only Jinwoo easily defeated them with his shadow army. And there you have it. All of Sung Jinwoo's battles in solo leveling. Which fight was your favorite? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching and watch this video next. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to Amazing Apai. Subscribing makes sure you do not miss the next video, and it gives me motivation to keep improving the quality of every upload. Thank you for being here, and I will see you in the next one.